If you're trying to cook more at home, eat a little healthier, and feed your family good stuff, how you handle your produce matters. And it really starts with washing off all the pesticides and grime that is on all the fruits and vegetables that you buy at the supermarket. This is actually the third time that I shared how to clean fruits and vegetables. In the first video, I mixed baking soda and vinegar together. It fizzed, it looked cool, but it turns out they cancel each other out, so not exactly effective. In the second version, I fixed that by keeping the baking soda and vinegar separate, but I was doing the whole process in the sink. It worked, but thanks to the people in the comment section, I realized I was probably wasting a lot of water and I wasn't too precise about how much of anything I was using. So this video is a more refined version, and it's what I actually do now and currently. It uses way less water, the steps are a little bit more controlled, and I'm gonna be a little bit more intentional about when to soak, what to scrub, and how I store everything after. Let me show you how it works. So this is my supermarket haul for the week. We got some fruits, we got some vegetables. Whenever I do these videos, everybody's asking, how do I wash this? How do I wash that? I tried to get a good representation of a lot of fruits and vegetables, but I can't do every single fruit and vegetable known to man. So after watching this video, if there's anything that you'd like to see, probably in the next video, because I'll probably do another one of these, please let me know. But here I got some berries, I got some hard fruit, some apples, some limes and some lemons. I like to wash the limes and lemons because I'm always zesting them and I don't want to have to worry about what's on top of the lemons and limes. And then we got some vegetables here. I got some zucchini, I got some peppers, and I also got some oddball scallions, because people don't look at like scallions as something that you would wash, but these things are filthy and it definitely makes sense to wash them, but I wash them a little bit different than I wash the fruits and vegetables. So let's get into everything. Let me show you how I do it. So the one thing that's gonna be the biggest difference between my last video and this one is gonna be using these bowls. This is gonna really cut down the amount of water that we're gonna use. It's gonna keep everything tight. I still use the sink from time to time on really, really big loads, but for the most part, I've switched over to the bowls thanks to the people in the comment section that was letting me know about how much water I was wasting, because I definitely was. So let's start off with the blueberries. So I'm gonna put the blueberries into the bowl. And to the bowl with the blueberries, I'm not gonna add the strawberries because I don't wanna spend too much time separating them. In the last videos, I also spent a lot of time like separating out the berries with different berries. If we keep stuff that separates easy, it's much easier to clean and remove everything and rinse everything and get it in its respective containers. So here I'm gonna take the blueberries and I'm gonna put in my lemons and my limes. And now in my next bowl, I'm gonna take the strawberries and put those in. And we'll put the strawberries in with some of these apples and my bell peppers. Not everything goes inside of a bowl. I'm also gonna use some of these hotel pans, because some of the longer fruits and vegetables, they don't sit inside of a bowl well, because there's the shape of them. So I'm gonna put them inside here. So here we're gonna take our zucchini, we're gonna put that inside there. And then we're gonna take off the rubber bands and the labels off these scallions, and we're also gonna put those in there. Let me put those on the bottom and put these right on top. Now let's get to the baking soda. So baking soda we're gonna put in because the baking soda is gonna help reduce any pesticide residue on the outside. It's also gonna help remove and loosen up any dirt. Fruit and vegetables that are grown on farms, there's dirt everywhere. They use pesticides, they use fungicides. A lot of stuff like the lemons are coated with coatings to help make sure that it looks a little shiny. We wanna remove all of that stuff. And baking soda is a great, effective way to do that. So now I kind of look at each one of these containers as like one thing, and they're all about similar size. So I'm gonna take 2 spoonfuls of baking soda and I'm gonna add that to each one of these bowls before we add the water. When I was doing this in the sink, I really don't have an idea of how much water is actually inside the sink, but here I got a way better idea of how much water and how much baking soda. And I usually find that the 2 big spoonfuls inside each one of these is enough that it's gonna create the cleanliness without using too much or not enough. So now I'm gonna head over to the sink and I'm gonna put some lukewarm water and I'm gonna fill these up all the way and I'm gonna agitate them around. It's gonna help the baking soda dissolve into the water, and it's also gonna help start to loosen up and agitate all the dirt and the grime on the outside of these fruits and vegetables. And I'm gonna use lukewarm water because warm water cleans. Cold water doesn't clean as good as warm water. I'm not gonna use hot water because I don't wanna start to soften or cook any of the fruits or vegetables that we're cleaning, but I do wanna make sure that they are getting clean, and I think warm water does that a little bit better without compromising any of the quality of the produce. So I'm gonna add enough water to completely cover the fruits and vegetables. And I like to move it around because that's gonna help loosen up any of the dirt on the outside. And at the same time, we're gonna get that baking soda dissolved into the water. The apples and the peppers, they'll float a little bit. So once I see that everything's pretty submerged, that's about far enough. And I'll do the same too with this lemons and the limes and these blueberries. At this point, I'll also take off any of the stickers that are on any of the supermarket produce. They have glue that attaches the sticker, and even though they're made to come off, I still want to make sure that we're removing any of that glue and that residue that was on that sticker. And I'll let these soak for about 10 minutes, and periodically over the 10 minutes, I may like turn like some of the peppers and the apples just so like the water's in contact with different parts of the fruit and vegetable. And I'll also come in there and kind of like agitate around, because as it loosens up any of the residue that's on the outside of here, you want to make sure that it's constantly getting like washed off, just like the washing machine does your clothes. So now after about 10 minutes, the baking soda's done its thing. I'm gonna take any of the stuff that's got a hard skin on the outside of it, and I'm gonna give it a scrub using this clean sponge. And I'm gonna use like the abrasive side because I really wanna loosen up any residue that's on there. So I'll just give it a quick dunk in the water and just give it a light scrub on the outside. And I'm gonna do that for each of these fruits. You know, my lemons and limes, I like to zest a lot inside my food. In fact, most of the time when I'm using a lemon or a lime, we're doing zest on it. I also like to put the lemons inside water. So I wanna make sure that we have no residue on the outside of that, or we're removing as much as possible. You know, the berries, that's gonna be a little impossible, but I'm gonna make sure that I do that with all this fruit and the produce. I think the stuff on the outside of apples is almost impossible to take off completely, and I don't really eat a lot of apple skins. Usually we peel our apples, but giving it a good scrub really makes sure that whatever is on here is coming off, and if I do eat a little bit of skin, it's definitely got less residue on it. And I'll do the same thing here with these peppers. The zucchinis, you know, I love eating the zucchini skin. We're definitely going to make sure that we scrub those. I don't really do a whole lot of peeling the zucchini. I think some of the best parts is the peel on the outside. So now that I've scrubbed everything and we gotten all the residue, now we got to rinse these, and then we got to soak them in the vinegar. So the first step is going to be rinsing each one of these and then refilling the containers with water and vinegar. So now let's rinse everything and then refill the containers. And here I'm gonna work right in the sink. A lot of people said that in my last video, they think my sink is a very dirty place. And I don't know why they think that. I wash my sink every time I wash any fruits and vegetables, anytime I wash any dishes. I wash the sink and scrub it as much as I'll scrub the dishes. So my sink is very clean, and I don't have any problem putting any fruits or vegetables or having anything touch my sink. My sink is not as dirty as my toilet, as some of the people in the comment section said. So I don't know what they're doing in their sink, but I clean my sink every single time I use the sink. And when you're doing scallions, a lot of the dirt collects on the inside the tubes of the scallions. So as you're rinsing them, I like to almost fill them up individually and then dump them out. And that's gonna help get any of that dirt that's inside there. So now I'll rinse out the container. And I'll add my scallions and the zucchini right back in. I'll give these lemons and limes a quick rinse. So now I'll take the blueberries and I'll dump them out into a colander. We'll give the bowl a rinse. I'll give that a quick rinse as well. And the berries I'll just add to the bowl. I'll agitate them around a little bit. And I'll just repeat that once or twice. So lemons and limes back in the bowl. The blueberries on top. And now our peppers and apples. And we'll do the same thing with these strawberries. So the next step is going to be washing it with vinegar. And again, why we're doing it separately, if you mix the baking soda and the vinegar, they cancel out each other. They don't clean much better than water. The baking soda does a lot of the cleaning. So think about removing the pesticides from the outside, loosening up dirt, removing it so it can rinse off. One of the things that the vinegar is going to do uniquely is going to kill a lot of the bacteria and mold on the outside of these. So one of the things that you want to do with produce to make sure you're not wasting is make sure it lasts until you're going to eat it. So especially like the things like the berries, I find when I skip this step, things get moldier faster. When I do this step, the berries seem to last forever, and I never really run into like super moldy ones that then ruin the rest of the batch. So to each one of these bowls, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of this white vinegar. And again, this is just regular like white distilled vinegar. This isn't white wine vinegar, so this is white distilled vinegar. You can use this stuff for cooking and you can use this stuff for cleaning. So here I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup to each one. If it spills over a little extra, no big deal. And one of the main questions I get with the vinegar is, does the vinegar leave an aftertaste? No, it rinses off as cleanly as the baking soda. I've never had any vinegar flavor last on anything. It rinses off really nicely once we get these things all cleaned up. So now let's head back over to the sink and do the same thing. We're gonna fill it with lukewarm water. We're gonna let it sit for about 10 minutes. We're gonna give it a scrub, we're gonna give it a rinse, and then I'll show you how I store everything. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just using lukewarm water, not cold water, and I'm gonna fill it up until everything is nice and submerged. Anything beyond that's wasting water. And the vinegar will mix much easier than the baking soda because it's liquid and liquid. Once there's enough liquid in there, you swirl it around a little bit, the vinegar is already mixed pretty thoroughly inside everything. So now, just like the baking soda, I'm gonna let all this stuff sit for about 10 minutes and then I'm gonna give it a final rinse. These have been sitting for about 10 minutes. Whatever has been cleaned off is already inside the water. Let's start to give these a final rinse. So now let's start with the larger fruits and vegetables. I'm gonna rinse off these peppers. And again, the vinegar rinses off really easily. I don't really want to go nuts at this point. I still want to make sure that we're conserving any water. And as I'm rinsing these off, I will take these and put them on a kitchen towel. Even just handling the fruit feels way more clean than it was before. I'm assuming that there's still some residue on there, but this feels way different than it did when I got this out of the supermarket. It just feels clean. So I've given this all a little time to air dry. I may dry stuff a little bit more, but let me show you how I store everything. So now all of my hard-skinned fruits and vegetables, they're just gonna go in their respective drawers. So the vegetables will go in the vegetable crisper, the fruits will go in the fruit drawer. And now I know when everything's in the fridge, I can just grab it and it's clean. If I want to zest a lemon, I don't need to go through 20 minutes of soaking baking soda in vinegar and then scrubbing everything. This thing is clean and ready to go, and that's gonna make your cooking that much easier, is if your produce is already washed and you can just reach into the fridge and grab clean, fresh produce. So let's get these all inside of the vegetable and fruit drawers. So I've showed a lot of different ways of how I like to store scallions. This is just one that I like to use when I get a lot of them and I know they're gonna hang around for a while. So we'll get a jar. This is probably like an old pickle jar. I'll put a little bit of water in it, and now I'll stick the scallions so just the roots are in. And now I'll take the bag that I put the scallions in the supermarket, the plastic bag. Plastic still has some use, and I'm trying to minimize it, but I think this is a really good application of it. And I'll just cover the scallions. Coincidentally, this plastic bag ripped a little bit, and that's kind of okay, because if it wasn't ripped, I would actually tear some holes in it, because you want it to vent a little bit, just not a lot. And so now I'll wrap up the bottom of the plastic around the jar. And then we'll take a rubber band and we'll just secure the plastic bag around the jar, holding the plastic bag. And maybe I might rip another hole or two in here just to make sure we're getting some cross ventilation, because the plastic's gonna help keep the scallions a little bit in contact with some moisture so that they don't dry out, but at the same time, it's not gonna get too damp and too misty in there, so it's going to create mold or softening issues. So this will just go in the fridge just like that, and whenever I need scallions, I can pull them right out. And now the most temperamental of all the fruits, the berries. So after we wash our berries, we're gonna store them in a glass snap top lid containers. I really think these are awesome because they are airtight. We've already removed a lot of the bacteria and the moisture. So once they go inside here, it's a pretty closed environment, and they'll stay in here for quite some time without any issues. So now I'll just take a little bit of paper towel and I'll put it on the bottom of the container. That's gonna help absorb any moisture that's left over. So now let's take our strawberries and I'll layer these in there. And as I'm layering them in there, I'm also taking a peek at the strawberries to see, like, are there any rotten ones that shouldn't be in here? These all look fine so far. Invariably, you're gonna have some fruits that aren't gonna make it into your storage container, and they gotta go either into the garbage or you gotta eat them that day. These actually all look pretty good. We'll do the same thing for these blueberries. I think in one of the videos, I didn't put the lid on top. So whoever said that in the comment section, I am putting the lid on top and closing it up. And that's how these are going inside the fridge. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you stop rinsing your produce and actually start washing it. This is, I think, an essential step with modern farming. We're so lucky to have all these fruits and vegetables in the supermarket, in our farmers markets, but before we eat them, we do have to wash them. If you found this video helpful, drop a comment in the comment section. If you have anything critical to say about my process currently, let me know, because the comments that you leave in the comment section are how I improve basically everything. It's great to have all these eyes on everything that I'm doing, so it gets me to look at things critically and get to say, you know what, I could be doing that better. I appreciate you watching this video. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit like on this video, subscribe to my channel so you know when I can find out new kitchen and cooking tip and recipe videos. I will see you on another video. Thanks.